What's up, guys and gals? JD here. I wanted to take some time and tell you my story about how I became a millionaire before the age of 30. And to give you a little bit of backstory, I was raised as a pastor's son. So my dad has been a pastor pretty much his entire life, since his young adulthood, and started as a youth pastor. And then he decided to start his own church here where we live now in Anderson, South Carolina. And that's what he does to this day. And so I was raised in a very loving, conservative home with good moral values. But I would be lying if I said that money was a big topic for us, because pastors just don't make a ton of money, as you guys know. Now, we got these mega church guys who absolutely crush it, but for the average pastor, they do well for themselves, but nothing crazy. And so when we look at, how life was for us, there wasn't investing. We weren't buying real estate deals. We weren't investing in the stock market. We weren't doing business deals. It was, hey, we lived week to week, month to month, had everything we need, good Christmases, ate well. I wasn't on the struggle bus. But financial literacy wasn't a big topic in our home. And so I didn't have a head start like some people do, where their parents are teaching them about business deals and having them around, different investments. Now, one thing I did have is, although money wasn't flowing in, and I don't have an inheritance. My parents didn't give me money to start my journey. What I did get, and I learned watching my dad, and I also think I inherited some of it DNA wise, is he is an entrepreneur. He is a pioneer, and he started. And he had an idea for a church, went out, started it, and executed. And the church now has about 1,000 members. He started from zero, 20-something years ago. And now they're doing really well. And so I was able to watch that journey of, okay, here's an entrepreneur's life. And it's not in the traditional sense that we think. He didn't go out and start a business, but he went out and started a church, an organization from the ground up. And I respect that, and I have respected that the older I've gotten, because that's not easy to do. And I look at my life, and it's something that I'm passionate about. And I'll talk through kind of where I'm at in my journey with entrepreneurship and working a W-2, and how that all led me, combined with real estate, to becoming a millionaire by 29 years old. But I think it's really cool that I was able to pick up on the pioneer that he was, and look at his work ethic and the sacrifices he had to make to get to where he is now, because that all plays into my story. So I'm raised in a pastor's home, not a lot of money, was never given money to start. Baseball, sports in general, but really baseball was my life. My whole goals, dream was to play Division I college baseball. And so I got the opportunity to do that at Charleston Southern University in Charleston, South Carolina. I got to start all 4 years, not every game my freshman year, but pretty much every game from sophomore year on. Was a team captain, met my wife there. She's a stud, owns a bunch of track records at Charleston Southern University. And it was just a fantastic experience to set out this goal of, hey, I want to do something, as in play Division I baseball, and then to go and actually make it happen. Because I remember, and it wasn't as structured as it is now, I wasn't as intentional, but I remember wanting it. Like, that was my goal. And so I knew, okay, if I want this, then I'm going to have to put in some type of extra work to get there, because not everybody just plays Division I ball. Not everybody plays college ball, but much less Division I ball. And so I put in these disciplines in my life. Every morning before high school, I was up working out with a personal trainer and friends. Every day after school, if we didn't have practice, if it wasn't baseball season, I would go to the batting cages or to the field and take grounders and hit from 4 till 8 every day like clockwork. And so, looking back, it taught me, hey, if we put a plan together, we got our goal, put our plan together, and show up every day consistently, there's a pretty darn good chance that we're going to be successful. And I was, I got to achieve that goal, and I had an absolute blast. And so I come out of college. And none of us know what we want to do, right? I guess there's some people who go to school and they want to be a doctor or a lawyer or a veterinarian or whatever, and they've got it planned out. I didn't have it mapped out. I didn't know, was I going to go into coaching ball? Was I going to, be in the service industry? Was I going to go back to school? I had no idea. But I did know that one of my strong suits was talking and connecting with people. I really love people and I love spending time with people. So I had an uncle who, had been in sales, and he said, you need to get into sales. And I said, okay, I don't know anything about it, but it seems like you can make some pretty good money doing it. He's like, yeah, it's the best. If you're not going to be an executive, it's where you're going to make the most money. People pay salespeople the most money. I said, all right, let's try it. So I applied for all these sales roles, and he had really pushed me towards Cintas. And, whether it's Cintas or Xerox or Enterprise Rent-A-Car, the whole point is these business-to-business organizations really teach you how to sell. And so I got on at Cintas, not as a full-time sales rep, but actually as a service sales rep. So I was up every morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, heading to the plant to load my truck up and then head out on the road by 4:15, 4:30 to deliver all these customer clean uniforms and pick up their dirty uniforms and deliver shop rags and pick up their dirty shop rags. It was just a mess. It was a racket. But I learned so much in a year of doing that job that taught me an unbelievable amount about business that I don't think I could have picked up that quick anywhere else, because I was in the service industry servicing people, but I also had sales numbers while I was on the route. So I had to go and sell these people. I had to collect payment. I had to deal with issues, and I'm getting yelled at and people were cursing at me, and I'm missing product that they wanted, or they were billed wrong on the invoice. And so there was a lot of problem solving mixed with sales. And so in this really short amount of time, I was learning so much information about the working world, and it taught me a couple things. Number one, it taught me that to be successful in the business world, it really wasn't that hard. It was actually a lot easier than the sports world. Like, I'd come from the sports world in this niche department of Division I baseball where it's hard to have the cream rise to the top because everybody's pretty darn good. But then when you get into the working world, you realize most people are complacent. Most people are lazy. And then it hit me like, I can keep putting in the work like I did playing college baseball and rise to the top. But not only do I get to rise to the top and get these accolades, they're paying me to do it. Like, now I'm getting paid. Nobody was paying me to play college baseball. Now they got all the NIL stuff and people are getting paid to do college sports. But when I played, that wasn't the case. And so I'm like, bro, I can keep putting in this extra work, grinding like I have been for years. And now I can rise to the top, get these accolades, be successful, and I'm going to make a buck. Like, let's go. And so within 6 months, I was second in the Southeast region as the service sales reps in the entire Southeast. And I had moved into a trainer role within 6 months, and they were putting me on this fast track to really grow in the corporate ladder because they knew that I had a lot of skills and a lot of abilities to be able to do that. But I dipped out before I had the opportunity to grow in that role. And so what I learned doing the role as the SSR, the service sales representative, is I didn't love the grunt work, okay? There's guys who were on the route for 20 years, delivering the clothes and hanging out with the customers every day, doing all the service work on the truck. I didn't love that part of it. I'll do it, we'll do what we got to do, but I really enjoyed the sales part of it. It was a game to me. Like, how much volume can I add to this route? The problem was I was adding all these sales to my route, but then it was making my route take longer to get done because now I had all these extra pieces of equipment and all these extra, accessories that I was having to deliver to customers and all this nonsense because I was growing the route. And so it was like this catch-22, like I want to continue growing, but I'm so sick of this route getting bigger and bigger. And so I was like, I got to get into full-time sales. And so I start working with the sales manager at Cintas. And I was young at the time. I was 22 years old. And he said, I want you to read a couple books and put me together presentations on it. And so I do it. I put these presentations together. I'm moving forward, about to get into a sales role there. And then I start getting recruited by pharmaceutical companies to come sell pharmaceutical sales. Now, my baseball coach growing up, now this is why it's important to understand your network. It's not what you know, but it's who you know. My baseball coach, all growing up, my travel ball coach, his wife was a regional manager at a pharmaceutical pharmaceutical company, not the pharmaceutical company that was recruiting me. But what I did is I went to her and said, hey, this company's recruiting me. Do you know anything about them? She said, no, I don't think they're the greatest company in the world. I know their products a little bit, but I actually have a position open in West Palm Beach underneath me if you want to come and apply for this position. And I was like, what? This is gotta be like God. This is no coincidence, right? I'm randomly getting recruited by a pharma company over here. Reach out to her and she actually has an open position. Like, yeah, let's chase this rabbit and see where it goes. So I apply, go through the whole interview process, and they hire me. And it's this startup pharmaceutical company. I'm doing great, making sales, learning really how to sell because I was pretty darn new to sales. And within my second year, I become a President's Club winner. Within my third year, I become a President's Club winner. I then moved back to South Carolina because that was in West Palm Beach and Jacksonville. I had transferred to Jacksonville, been there for a couple years, and now I was ready to get back home. We were having kids. They didn't have a position open in my pharmaceutical company, and so I was going to have to transfer into something else, into another company. And I really wanted to get into medical device because pharmaceuticals was great, but it was a monotonous job. You're doing the same thing every week, and I could make more money in device. And so I applied for a couple device jobs up here locally, land one at one of the best medical device companies in the entire world and the best role within this medical device company in the entire world. And I have been there ever since, and I am there to this day. Now, you may be saying, what does all this have to do with you becoming a millionaire by 29 through real estate? Well, I had to work to be able to buy real estate. And so I wanted to give you guys a little backstory of me, who I am, and where I've been along my journey, and I'll tie in real estate to it. And so when I came out of college, I had to pick up a car payment. My wife and I got married, I think about a year after I graduated. So I had a wedding ring that I had, and then I started racking up some credit card debt, and I had about, $65,000 in student loan debt. And so when it's all said and done, I think I went and bought a truck too with a note on it. So I believe I was somewhere around 110 to 115,000, somewhere in that ballpark worth of debt to my name at age like 23 or 24. And that's a problem. Okay. And that's a problem for a lot of Americans. And so when I first started on my journey, and hopefully this resonates with some of you guys who are drowning in debt right now, hopefully, maybe my title of becoming a millionaire by 29 through real estate drew you in, but you need to learn this lesson right here. If this is you and you're struggling, drowning in debt, real estate and investing shouldn't be your thought process right now. You need to clean up your personal finances. Do not invest until you clean up your personal finances. Look, you have to build a strong foundation, okay? We want to build a strong foundation on solid rock. And we do that through personal finances, because once we have that strong financial rock foundation, then we can build layers upon layers upon layers upon layers of investments on top without it all crumbling down. Because if we go and we try to build these investments with this weak foundation, guess what? It's all going to come crumbling down at some point, because it's all based on that base that you have built. And so what I did when I came out of college and started working and got married in 2014, from 2013 really is when I came out of college, got married at 2014, but I had the student loans coming out at 2013. From 2013 to 2018, you know what I worked on? Number one, increasing my income. How could I keep making more money? I was only going to make $45,000 at Centos. Well, that ain't going to cut it. It's not going to get me where I want to go as quick as I want to get there. So let's try pharmaceutical sales. Well, pharmaceutical sales, I was getting pretty darn close to six figures. If I'd have stayed, maybe I make 100 and 115. But I said, that's going to get me somewhere, and that's going to get me somewhere quicker than 45 is, but how can we scale that even more? And so then I get into medical device, where I have an opportunity to, 2X that, 3X that, even 4X that, and really expedite this process of getting out of debt and building wealth. Because look, guys, income is the fuel, okay, that propels wealth. The more of it you have, the faster debt elimination and wealth building is going to go. So I worked on increasing my income. And I did that significantly. Look, there's nothing special about me. I had no special degrees. I graduated college with a 2.6 GPA with a major in communications. Okay, guys, I'm not some genius. I'm not some bright star like Alex Hermosi who graduated at the top of his class at Vanderbilt. Okay, that's not me. Just a regular old guy who started on a box truck making $45,000 a year, but then said, I want more for my life. I need to figure out how to get there quicker than 65, right? And so for me, that was sales, increasing that income. So that was one of my focuses. My second and my big focus was eliminating my debt. Okay, eliminating my debt. And I'm not talking about good debt like a mortgage. I was talking about getting rid of my student loans, getting rid of my credit cards, getting rid of my wedding ring loan. And then also down the road, and I don't think you have to do this right away depending on interest, but for me, I wanted to get rid of all consumer debt. So that also included our vehicle debt, which we have eliminated now. I have zero consumer debt. I live life with no debt. Only debt I have is on my rental properties and on my personal home. And so that didn't happen overnight, though. This was a process that started in 2013 and didn't end until 2018 and came from a combination of budgeting and cutting my expenses and not spending ridiculous money and buying any more stupid things. After I'd already bought the stupid things, it was, hey, now we got to get some discipline in place and get rid of this debt, okay? And so that started with a budget, telling my money where to go every month and attacking that, and then increasing that income over the next few years. And so 5 years later, for all you guys and gals who are still in bad debt, who aren't ready to invest yet, I was there. I spent 5 years of my life paying down and paying off the stupid debt that I had incurred. I did it through my full-time jobs, but also every time I've had a full-time job, I've had at least a side gig to help supplement. So when I was working at Centos, on my off day and on the weekends, I would go deliver fruit for this fruit company. Okay. When I got into pharmaceuticals, I started a pressure washing business, and I would go pressure wash in the afternoons and on the weekends to make extra bucks. One of my buddy's brothers had a software company that he was selling to hospitals. When I would get home from work at pharmaceuticals, I'd sit down and I'd cold call these hospitals trying to sell the software. When I moved here to the upstate of South Carolina and started with medical device, I started Finance Cowboy and started dabbling in the side gig here. What does this look like building a brand with the Finance Cowboy? Now it's exploded. Not all side gigs explode, but I was just looking to help people out through real estate. And then let's say, okay, can you make a few extra bucks as a side gig? And now it's, a full-on brand. But the point is, I was setting myself up to give myself the best chance to bring in additional income so I could get rid of that debt faster so I could eventually invest. And so we do that. After 5 years, from 2013 to 2018, we get rid of that dumb consumer debt, and now it's time to invest. And so when we reached 2018, it was, okay, we finally have got rid of this debt. We have this extra money. We need to invest, right? We got to invest. And this is another bridge that you'll cross. You'll start having all this extra money when you get rid of debt, and you're going to want to go out and you're going to buy things that you don't want to need. You've been working to get rid of things you don't need, but now you got all this extra income. And you're like, oh, let's go buy this. We got all this extra money. Let's go do this. Let's update our house. Whatever the case may be, don't do it. Stay broke to get rich. Stay broke to get rich. You've been used to being broke for the last however many years in debt. Pretend that you're still broke, and instead of wasting that money on things you don't need, let's take that money and let's go invest it. And so for us, it was choosing, where do we want to invest this money? You got the stock market, you got crypto, which I would not recommend. Me personally, I'm not investing in crypto as a large portion of my portfolio, especially if I'm just starting out. You got real estate. And so I looked at all the opportunities and all the different avenues that you can invest in. And for me, real estate made the most sense. When you look at history, for centuries upon centuries upon centuries, real estate has been making people wealthy. What's the stat? 90% of millionaires invest in real estate. That ought to tell you something, guys. We don't need to reinvent the wheel here, right? We need to look and say, what has worked for the majority of people time after time after time? And the reason it's worked is because there's these 6 main pillars that really propel you to wealth when you buy real estate, okay? Number 1 is we have leverage. So with real estate, we're gonna be able to use somebody else's money to buy properties. Now, I use 100% of somebody else's money to buy properties through private lending, okay? But even if we're not using a private lender to fund our entire deals, we can go and put 20% down for a property, and the bank's gonna loan you the remaining 80%. Do you understand that? We can put a little bit of money down to own this massively expensive asset that's only going to grow our wealth over time. And so not only do we have the leverage, okay, that's number 1. Number 2, we got forced appreciation. And all that means is we can buy a distressed property, go rehab it, and then boom, immediately it's worth more money. Okay, you can't go put lipstick on a stock and it be worth money. You have no control over that stock. But with that piece of real estate, you can control what you buy it at, and then you can control how it looks. That's then going to help you have added value to create more wealth for yourself. Third is we're going to have standard appreciation, which just means that over time, the property is going to go up in value. And if we look at the history of real estate and how it's performed over time, we see that real estate goes up in value over time. Then we're going to have cash flow. And cash flow is simply when we take our rents and we subtract everything, all of our expenses, mortgage, taxes, insurance, maintenance, vacancies, everything. What's left over at the end of the month is going to go in our pocket. So you'll have these properties that you can force appreciate. It's going to grow in value over time, but then this cash flow is actually going to pay you monthly. And you'll get $200, $300, $400, $500 a month coming into your account off the cash flow that the tenants are paying you, which leads me to my next point, the 5th pillar, which is tenant buy down. We're going to use either none of our money if we use a private lender or a little bit of our money if we're putting our own down payment to buy this large asset. But then once you acquire it, guess what? You don't have to pay for it anymore. There is a tenant in place who is going to pay that mortgage off for you. Okay. Do you guys, are you tracking me? You put little or none of your money in. It's going to go up in value over time, just based on the market. You can make it go up in value over time through appreciation. And now we're going to have somebody pay down our debt for us. And then the 6th pillar is going to be tax benefits. You're going to get deductions and write-offs and everything else. You can do cost segregation through real estate, which is really going to be able to lower that tax bill. It's going to give you a lot of tax benefits. They've got things in place such as, long-term capital gains if you hold a property long enough. So then you're not going to have to pay short-term capital gains based on your income rate. You could do 1031 exchanges, which allow you to roll into another property and defer the taxes that you owed on the property that you just sold. There's all different types of loopholes for taxes when it comes to real estate because the government loves people buying real estate. And so when we bundle all this together, we get to use somebody else's money to buy the property. It's going to go up in value over time based on appreciation. We can create instant value through forced appreciation. Tenants are paying down our debt for us while they're also paying us cash flow every month, and we're going to get tax benefits. And when I learned that these 6 pillars are included in real estate and the power of these 6 pillars, especially mixed with compound interest and what they were going to do for me, I decided in 2018 that there was no other route that I would rather go than buying and holding real estate, especially rental properties. And so at this point, it was, okay, how do I do this? And I have a best friend, his name is Gaston Albergati, who got into real estate right out of college. So we both graduated the same year. He got into real estate. He's an agent, so he's buying and selling for people in the commercial real estate. But along the journey, he got into buying rental properties. That became one of his and his team's strategy is, hey, how do we add these properties to our portfolio? And so he probably started buying properties. I don't want to get this too wrong, but I'm going to guess that probably at age 24, maybe 23, 24, he bought his first rental. Well, us just being buddies, he would tell me about it on the phone. I was living in Florida at the time doing these pharmaceutical sales, and we would talk in the evening, and he'd tell me, hey man, yeah, we just bought a property, and I would ask him questions about it. Not because I was looking at buying, I wasn't in a position, but I just was interested. And so I would learn, I'd listen, and I'd see how he's finding properties and how he's analyzing or underwriting those properties, how he's choosing those neighborhoods, building relationships with lenders, managing them after he's buying them. And so this goes on for years. And you look, that was probably 2014, we're talking about this stuff. And by 2016, I'd say he's worth well over $1 million. And by 2017, he's probably creeping up on $2 million. And by 2018, he's well over worth $2 million and owns all this real estate. And he's 28 years old. Okay. 28 years old, multi-millionaire based off of these rental properties. And he's kind of been telling me about it all these years. So I've really been getting mentored without knowing I'm getting mentored. But he's telling me his story. And so it gets to, the time for me to invest. And he had been on me, right? I'd moved back to South Carolina. We didn't live far from each other. And I'd been here a year, still getting rid of my debt and paying off crap debt and getting my personal finances in order. And he had been on me since I moved back in 2017. Hey, you got to get you a rental. Hey, you got to start buying real estate. Hey, it's changed my life. It's making me wealthy. What are you doing? Why are you waiting? I'm like, man, I'm trying to get my finances in order. He's like, let's go. So finally I come to him in 2018. I'm like, I'm ready to go. We got to do this. Like, I'm ready to invest. You've convinced me that real estate's the way to go. Let's do it. And so it's 2018. I was like, help me find a property. He brings me a property. He could have easily bought it himself. It's a great property, Greenville, South Carolina. It's a fast growing city. He found it and he brought it to me and I bought it. And it was in a neighborhood we knew. Like, there were other investors in the area who own properties, and it was a win-win. And he said, look, I don't know if he charged me a fee for bringing it to me, and then he brokered the deal, as in my agent. So, it was a business deal. He didn't just hand it over. There was mutual benefit for both of us, but he brought it to me. And I remember, and a lot of you guys are going to feel this way if you don't already. I remember I knew that I needed to buy this property. This was going to be the start of something big, but I was so freaking scared to move forward. Because emotion and fear started coming over. What if the tenant doesn't pay? What if the house burns down? What if I can't get somebody in there to rent it? What if I ran my numbers wrong and I'm going to lose money every month? What if I can't ever sell this property? What if I can't get a contractor to fix this, or I can't manage it correctly? All these what ifs that have easy answers to them, right? If you're partnering with people who know what they're doing, and you have an understanding of real estate, right? All these questions, these things that seem like these big fears that if you're a newbie, really can weigh on you. But as you get into it, you realize it's not that big of a deal. And so I was so scared, and I literally tried to back out of the deal. And I remember I was like, dude, I'm so scared to do it. I'm scared to have, debt on the property, because I had been through the Dave Ramsey course and I was brainwashed that all debt was bad. I've been working to get out of all this debt, all this consumer debt. Now I'm about to go into debt, with these rental properties. And I knew logically it makes sense. And that's the way to buy real estate, is leveraging real estate. That's the best way to go about it. That's where you're going to get your best returns. Somebody else is going to pay your mortgage off for you. The list goes on. We've already talked about the 6 pillars, but when it comes to actually doing something, I try to back out. And he's like, bro, you're not backing out. It's like, I'm not letting you back out. He said, if it doesn't work out, or you get in and you hate it, you can turn around and sell the property. You can sell it to me. You can sell it to other investors. And this goes for all of you guys. There are tons of people out there who will buy a property. I used to have this fear of, I'm never going to be able to get rid of it. It's just not true. There's so many people out there, who are looking for deals. And so he pushed me through. And once I closed, we had a renter in there within just a few weeks. Okay. It happened very quickly. We forced appreciated it. So we did some rehab and made it worth more. It started going up in value over time. Same tenant in there for what ended up being 4 years. Property management took over it. I didn't have to hear anything about it. Everything went smoothly. And, what I learned from buying that property that then escalated me into scaling was I realized that it was riskier for my future to not invest in real estate than it was to invest in real estate. Because up until that point, I had thought that it's risky to invest in real estate, right? I knew I needed to do it, but just in my mind, it's like, oh, this is kind of risky. I'm kind of scared. But when I took the plunge and I bought that first property and I realized, okay, like for once the grass is actually greener. This isn't that scary. I now just own a property and somebody needs a place to live. And so I'm going to make it nice. They're going to live there. They're going to pay me to live there while it goes up in value, and they're going to pay off my mortgage for me. And it was just like, oh, this is pretty darn simple. Why did I wait so long? Which I did it to build my strong foundation. But I'm like, man, this is easy, and like, this is going to make me very wealthy. You fast forward 4 years from now, or 4 years from 2018 to last year, the beginning of 2022. And I sold that property. I only put $10,000 in it when I first bought it. And I turned around and sold it to another investor for 100% more than what I bought it. Okay, so I bought it for $70,000. I sold it for $140,000 4 years later and only put $10,000 into the property. In the meantime, tenants have been paying down that debt and paying me cash flow each month. And so my returns on that were ridiculous. But in the meantime of me buying that first property and then actually selling that first property, I scaled my portfolio and have bought over 25 properties and did it. When I bought that first one in 2018, I was 27 years old. Okay. By the time I became a millionaire at 29, 2 years later, I had scaled to 22 properties. We've been to 25, when we're sitting today, but I've been to scaled to 22 properties by 2000, and what would that be? 2020. Okay. So within 2 years we scaled and it grew our wealth tremendously. When I started in 2018, I had a negative $10,000 net worth and essentially no assets. I think I had a small 401k, but my debt was still outweighing my 401k. And then we took the plunge into real estate, and within 2 years, we became millionaires. And so the way we were able to do it is through the BRRRR method and scaling using other people's money. And so here's the strategy we did. BRRRR, it stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. And what I would do is I would go find an undervalued distressed property in a decent neighborhood. So there's 4 classes of neighborhood, A, B, C, and D. I like B to C class neighborhoods. And so I would go in a C class neighborhood and look for a D class property, or a B class neighborhood and look for a C class property, one that needs work and that I could get at a great deal. Okay. And so then I would buy that property in cash using a private lender's money. So somebody in my network who would lend me money. And I have a number of those now. It can be a coworker, it can be a family member, an acquaintance, another investor. There can be so many different folks that will work with you to be a private lender. And I actually have a free guide. If you message me or comment the word key, I'll send over a free 21-page guide that talks about how to find a private lender. Because it sounds daunting right now. You're probably thinking, well, I don't have a private lender. Well, guess what? I didn't have a private lender either. But there's 330 million people in the United States. You can find one of them to lend you money if you really want to grow wealth. And that was my thought process. And so anyways, I use this private lender money to buy the property. Then I would go and rehab the money with private money, or rehab the property with private money. So now I've just bought this property without my money, rehabbed it without my money. Okay. Then once we get it rehabbed, we'll rent it out. We'll get it rented, okay, to a tenant. It's fixed up. It's in good condition. Then we'll refinance that property. Okay, so we've rehabbed it and we've got a tenant in place and we bought it undervalued. Now when we go to the bank to refinance it, because right now we own it with private money, okay, but then we're going to go to a bank and they're going to give us a long-term rental loan. And so they're going to do what's called a cash out refinance. And so they'll do an appraisal of the new value of this property after we rehabbed it and got it rented. And they'll write me a check for 80% of the new appraised value. Okay. I'll take that check. And if we've done everything correctly and we got the price or the property at the correct price and we've got it to appraise at the correct price, on the flip side, that 80% of the new appraised value, that check that the bank writes me, will cover the loan, which was for the purchase and the rehab that the private lender gave me at the start of the entire formula. And so we'll take that and we'll pay that private lender back completely, plus their fee, right? The interest is probably going to be somewhere between 8 to 15%. You may pay them that monthly, right, until their loan's paid back, or they may say you can just pay me the entire lump sum after you refinance with the bank. We're going to pay them back. They're out of the equation. We now just have a loan on the bank, on the property from a bank. It's a long-term loan, maybe 20-year note with a 5-year balloon, or a 20-year fixed note, or a 30-year fixed note, whatever product we go through. And then we're going to repeat that process with that private lender. We're going to go find another distressed property, okay? They're going to lend us money to buy it, rehab it. We're going to rent it out. We're going to refinance it with the bank. We're going to pay that private lender back, and we're going to repeat, and we're going to do this, and we're going to grow. And that is the way that I was able to take from 2018 having 0 properties to, by 2020, having 22 properties and being worth over $1 million at the age of 29 years old. And that doesn't even factor in all the cash flow that we had coming in. And then we look at the market heating up 20 to 22 and how it's been performing, and we've added more properties. And today we are coming up on a $2 million net worth. I think the market's probably going to slow down here for the next couple of years. So, I think we'll still achieve the $2 million net worth based on the volume that we plan to buy in 2023. We plan to buy between 10 and 20 homes this year to add to the portfolio because I think there's so many good deals that are coming to the market. And, they're going to start, the homes are already sit longer. They're going to continue to sit longer. We're going to look at some investors who made some bad buys, especially in the secondary home market, like Airbnbs, and I think in the large multifamily. And so, there's lots of opportunity here in 2023 to keep adding on to the portfolio we've already built. But how we started from ground zero to where we were in 2020, just 2 short years, we were able to become millionaires through leveraging somebody else's money, buying distressed properties in good neighborhoods, fixing them up, getting them rented out, refinancing into long-term notes with the bank, paying that lender back, and just repeating that process. And guys, once you get that formula down and you apply that to your life, it will change the landscape of your future. It'll change your life, and it happens quick. I mean, think about it. 0, really negative 10K to $1 million in net worth in 2 years. And then almost another million added in the next 2 years. Okay. And that's only going to speed up because now we have compound interest, and all these properties are going to compound over time and just create massive wealth. Just think about it. If I never bought another property, I'm already worth $2 million. What am I going to be in 10 years when the debt's paid down even more and the appreciation's going up even more? Okay. And so I'm telling you guys and bragging about the short-term success we've had. But then if you start thinking long-term, retirement, paying for kids' college, whatever the case may be, you put yourself in a good position with all this equity that you're building through these properties, and not even talking about the cash flow at this point, and which is money that you're getting paid every single month. So this is how I was able to get it done. This is my story of my wife and I becoming millionaires before the age of 30 through real estate. And I hope you enjoyed it. If there's anything that I left out, if you made it all the way through this video and you're like, JD, I got this question. How'd you do this? What about this? Just leave a comment down below. And if you would, click subscribe to this page. We're going to be putting out content like this. I'm going to be putting out content showing you my properties, teaching you things about real estate, blessing others. And the best way that you could help us is by hitting that subscribe button below and joining the Finance Cowboy family. I thank you guys for watching today, and I will see you next time.